Started dating a girl for 3 months. Turns out she had 2 boyfriends already. So this kind of absurd but instructive story covers around 5 months of actions. First of all, I, 18M, know this girl, 18F, from our school. We shared some glances, but we didn't initiate anything, mainly because I was talking to someone already, and I like to stay loyal even in the talking stage. First, she asked for my Insta and Facebook through a common friend of ours. After we stopped talking with this other girl, I decided to give it a shot. After 2 months of following me on Insta, she asked this friend to my Snap. This made me clear that she had interest. I texted her, and we quickly became close to each other, since we share a hell of a lot of common interests. She claimed that she had anxiety and is really shy and introverted, which was honestly fine, because I could keep my 3-month rule, and she could open up and get comfortable with me with time. We talked whenever we had free time, mainly by sending snap pics and writing our convos on it, which kept it more interesting over time, without having to meet in person. She seemed just perfect, and everything that I was looking for. Some things were off almost by the start though, which I completely ignored like a real idiot. She did not want to meet in the first month, and she blamed it on her anxiety. I had anxiety too, and since I overcame it, I decided that I'll be patient with her. It eventually developed into an I can fix her attitude, which we all know how usually ends well. She also posted some nasty stuff on Tumblr and texts about self-sabotaging and things like this. I thought her mental health is bad because of watching these things all day and spending way too much time on social media. Eventually, after 1.5 months, she overcame her anxiousness around me, and we met up pretty often in the school. I was pretty into her already, but after 1.5 months of talking, we could not have any other topic other than sexual stuff. She was no way vanilla. I'm not either, so we had quite a lot of spicy things to discuss, which we did, in very disturbing details. We also sent explicit TikToks and Insta pics to each other, and a lot of sexy pics too, but no nudity. She was only interested in this topic, and if I tried to talk with her about something else, she shook it off and vanished for that day. Almost 2 months in, she sent a Thai pic and said that she craves sex. But this time, I actually wanted to settle with someone, not just to have fun, and I'm a high-value man. So I decided to keep the 3 months rule and told her that 1 more month, babe, and I'll rip you apart, respectfully, but we have to be patient and have to be officially together. Now, after this, she gave mixed signals, although she stated multiple times that she is only interested long-term. Then, she began reposting things like, I'm not made for relationships, and he thinks I'm obsessed with him. But I have 6 guys. She blamed these on her BP and said that she just found these TikToks interesting. Now she is the typical obsessive girl with daddy issues, and as I mentioned, bept. Sadly, I have something for these Delulu women, so detaching was hard. But I'm not someone who will tolerate disrespects, so we argued a lot. At this point, we were not in a relationship officially, but kinda acted like we are. But she needed more time for one, which was pretty funny, because for a nice and profound sex, she was readier than ever. Also, there were rumors about her in her class having other dudes, which she claimed were false off, because she was almost virgin. What the hell does that even mean? I was so ready to leave at this point. He also had a guy friend who I once saw trying to hold her hand, and she was just there, enjoying the show. I told her that she can decide, him or me. She eventually blocked this friend, but I think for a different reason, which I could not figure out. The breaking point was a day, 3 months in dating, when a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of her sitting in another dude's car, holding her hand, and with a quote like, "Forever together," or some shy. It was only her lower body that was visible, but we recognized her instantly. I didn't want to believe my eyes, although I was already suspicious. I was not sad at all. I only felt terrible disgust and rage. But I was the one ignoring the red flags. And if you decide to sail the seven seas with a ship decorated entirely by red flags, don't be surprised if you wreck with it, lol. I confronted her about it. She did not reply, so I was 100% sure it was her indeed. Turns out, after we were 1 month into the talking stage, she got with this dude, which she was seeing while being too anxious to meet with me. But wait, it gets better. I found out from another friend of mine that she has a boyfriend of almost a year, who she was seeing too. We were like an idiotic version of the Three Musketeers, and remember the guy friend I mentioned earlier? It turns out that she sex chatted with her too. All those times when she was studying for college and working out, she was actually spending time entertaining 3 other dudes, and these are the ones I know about. God knows how many of us were there. I took some 40 screenshots, blocked her, and sent it to both of her boyfriends. As far as I know, the 1-year guy broke up with her, but the other one forgave her this little incident. Good for him. But once a cheater is always a cheater. Good luck in their relationship. At first I didn't want to share this story, but it was a really valuable lesson. First, forced exclusivity is not loyalty. Most people are loyal to their options, not people. If you want something serious, look for someone who loves you, not someone who loves how you make them feel. If someone is truly in love, she will talk about you when they are asked about love, and not only about themselves. Second of all, if someone can't love themselves, they can't fully commit and love you. They will most likely only stay till the spark is present. And what comes too easily will be lost easily eventually. So this is how the 3-month rule saved me from a heartbreak. But most importantly, not every woman is like this. Don't lose yourself after a heartbreak, neither your hope. There are still genuine people out there looking for something that is real. Just invest time into looking for them. All of the things above are meant without judgment. Peace. Pastor lies, cheats, and steals. He gets exactly what he deserves. I have been a computer technician for more than 15 years. I have worked on all kinds of computers, everything from tiny point-of-sale computers to large rack server computers. I had been attending a new-to-me church. I was trying to date a woman there. This church was her idea. That relationship crashed and burned, but that's a different story. Now we can start. It was about 5 years ago. I had just sat through a long sermon about generosity and giving to those that need help. At the end of the sermon, Pastor Bob asked for an additional donation because the church's roof needed repairs, and it would cost $20,000 US dollars. That's right, 20,000 freedom dollars for a new roof. After the service, I'm talking to my date. Pastor Bob walks over to me. I said hi, and he introduced himself. We talk a bit. Pastor Bob asked what I do for a living. I tell him I'm a computer tech with a shop. As I'm telling him, I have a feeling he already knows what I do. Pastor Bob asks me to have a look at his laptop. It's being very slow, so I agree. I turn the laptop on and I hear a clicking noise. This clues me, and it's probably the hard drive, but I can still access the data. This is a good thing because it means I can probably recover the data. So I tell Pastor Bob the hard drive is dying and it needs to be replaced. I also tell him I can probably recover the data. Pastor Bob asked how much it would cost to fix. I tell him for most people, I would charge around $250. However, I feel I can donate my time, so I would just need $60 for a new hard drive. Pastor Bob agrees, so I write up an invoice. New hard drive $60, labor $0, data recovery $0, and 2 to 4 days for repair. Pastor Bob signed the invoice. Thus, I take the laptop to my shop. I open the laptop. HP, why do you use so many screws and clips? I get the hard drive out and connect it to my recovery rig. I set up the recovery to clone the data to a new hard drive, but not the new one for the laptop, a high-end storage drive. I go home after locking up the shop. Next day, Monday, I open the shop and check the recovery rig. It's working, but it will take at least 10 more hours. So I start work on the other tickets. Then at closing time, I lock up and go home. Next day, Tuesday, I've had Pastor Bob's laptop for 2 days. I open the shop and check my recovery rig. Good news, recovery completed, 100% data recovered. Report says hard drive developed to many bad sectors. Now I have a choice to make. I could put a 1 TB hard drive, $60, or a 120 gigabytes SSD, $60. Or I could pay some money myself for a 240 gigabytes SSD, $100. I decide why not and put the 240 gigabytes SSD in the laptop. I then clone all the data over from the new recovery storage drive to the new 240 gigabytes SSD. An hour later, the clone is done. So, I check everything. The laptop works great and is exactly like how it was before the first hard drive died. Even the logins still worked. Therefore, I call Pastor Bob and tell him his computer is done. He says that's great, he will be here soon to get it. About 45 minutes later, Pastor Bob walks in. I show him his laptop working and much faster. He loves it and signs the pickup form. He then pays me with a check for $60. It's important he paid with a check. I do a bank run on Monday and Friday. So that Friday at the bank, I am informed that Pastor Bob's check is void. What? Why? Pastor Bob had placed a stop payment on the check. Consequently, I called him and he ignored my call. I go to church on Sunday. Pastor Bob gives a sermon about not lying. I walk up to talk to him and he avoids me. So, I leave and decide I'm going to write it off. I spent $100 and some time to do something nice. A few weeks later, a customer walks in looking for a new computer. To welcome him, I offer him a drink and go over his options. I'm chatting him up, and he tells me he is a contractor. He mostly does siding and roofing. He is thinking about offering solar. That's why he is getting a new computer. I ask how much does a new roof cost. He says up to about $10,000. So I ask him, why would someone say $20,000? He had no idea. I thought it was strange. I asked about the church. Contractor said it would have been simple and around $5,000, and he could probably do it for less. Contractor buys a nice new laptop. Sorry the setup took so long. The revenge starts now. Something about what the contractor said bugs me later. Why would Pastor Bob lie and say $20,000 for a new roof? And why would he stiff me for $60? I then remember I never cleared the recovery rig storage drive. I check in there, it is Pastor Bob's laptop data. I look around, it gets slow, and I'm all caught up on repair tickets. Fittingly, I look around a bit. He had all of his logins stored in a folder on the desktop, including his online dating logins and online poker. Did I ever mention Pastor Bob is married? I start printing his online dating messages. I look back and find Pastor Bob had been adult hugging several women from his online dating. He had been paying for his dates from the church's donation fund. I am getting angry now. Then I realize he had adult hugged the woman I was dating when I was dating her. It was then I decided to break Pastor Bob. I printed out all his dating messages and the women he adult hugged. For the last 6 months, except I refused to print the naughty pictures. It was an impressive packet. I then decide I need copies of the packet. Therefore, I order 100 packets printed from a major online printer. A few days later, my order of revenge packets arrived. These revenge packets are amazing, double-sided, staple-bound, with a cover with Pastor Bob's face on it. Now the conclusion, and I think it's worth it. This church had a calendar of what the sermon might be about. A perfect Sunday was approaching. I go to church that perfect Sunday. I show up a bit late. Everyone is in the church, so I put a revenge packet on each car. I have a few revenge packets that are in yellow envelopes. Fittingly, I put them in the mail. I sent one to all the high-ups in the church, and I sent a special packet with some of Pastor Bob's naughty pics to Pastor Bob's wife. I set the return address to the church. I also emailed a bunch of people the revenge packet from a burner email. A couple weeks after I went back to that church, Pastor Bob was gone, so was the wife. Several of the women were also gone, including the one I was dating. I asked one of the important people there, "What happened?" The answer was amazing. I was told about the revenge packet and how everyone had gotten one. The day my revenge packet appeared, the sermon Pastor Bob had given was about the evils of adultery and cheating on your wife. Thank you, church calendar. The fallout. Pastor Bob was fired and shunned. Multiple women from the church have not returned, including the one I was dating. Pastor Bob's wife is divorcing him, and she is the one that owned the house and cars. No longer Pastor Bob is now being sued by several people, including the one that fixed the roof. He never paid any of them. There were also rumors of a criminal case for embezzlement. No one has seen Bob in a while now. The church might close if they can't find a new pastor, but the church's money is very low. Apparently, he also spent over $30,000 on online gambling.